Alright, today we're making beef pho. I know my pot looks like a mess, but that's what happens when you actually use your cooking vessels. So, hot water. Alright, so I think that's good enough. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in the stove and let this bubble. I'm also gonna have to find the lid, because I don't know where my son left it, but we will find out. Alright, now that your water is boiling, you gotta make sure it's boiling. You're gonna add in your meat. So, normally this would be like oxtail, short rib, sometimes beef bones, and either beef shin or beef brisket. Unfortunately, the only kind of brisket that they had in my area was corned brisket, and that just wasn't gonna work. You can use chuck. Beef shin is also not a very common cut around here, so we're just gonna do an eye round. And we're going to throw all of these in this water to clean it. Up until the meat turns brown but doesn't cook all the way. Also, just to know, I didn't add a lot of oxtail because we don't really like oxtail in the house, but I did have to add some for like collagen and all that. Well, not so much, but for flavor. But you can add how much rib and all that you want. So, all right. So now that the room smells like meat, which is what you want, we are going to dig all of this out of the pot. I'm actually just going to go ahead and grab my skimmer because these tongs are not going to do anything. Let this meat cool down before we wash it because it still has a way to cook. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to rinse off our meat now that it's cooled down and make sure we get any like foam or whatever that came up from it before we put it in a pot with clean water. Alright, so now that our bones are rinsed off and the meat is cleaned, we are going to add it back into the pan that is going to be full of fresh, well, not pan, but pot full of hot water. Or, well, fresh hot water. Alright, now we're going to add in our meats back in. We're going to let this simmer for about 5 to 6 hours by itself before we add in our aromatics. And we are going to actually put this on the lowest setting that it can go. Right now it's about to be 12, so yeah, I will see you guys in 6 hours. Alright. And you can't really see the color up here for some reason, but this looks great. Alright, we're going to take this onion and char it. You would also normally add ginger, but I forgot to get fresh ginger, so we are just going to use some frozen ginger, or I'll run out to the store and get some. If I do end up using the frozen ginger, we'll add that more towards the end so it keeps its flavor. Anyway, I'm going to go char this, and I'm going to go ahead and toast the seasonings. Alright, I'm going to show y'all how to toast these spices, and whenever the sun comes out, I'm going to have to go get cinnamon sticks, because apparently I did not have any, and I thought I did. Star anise pods. Some fennel seeds. I'm eyeballing it. I'd say that's about 2 tablespoons. Maybe a teeny bit more. Coriander seeds. That's gotta be at least 4. Cardamom pods. And a couple cloves. And we're gonna toast this in our pan with no oil. And while that's toasting, we're gonna go ahead and take some of this meat out. The meat was not near anywhere as tender as I wanted it, but look at this broth. The phone camera does not do it any justice, but it is a really pretty pale color. And we're going to go ahead and add our charred onion to the pot. Alright, our seasonings are toasted. you don't want them to burn. You want to be able to start smelling them when you take them out. You can toast them a little longer, but make sure you don't burn them. So, with that being said, I think they have been toasted enough. We're going to add them to our pot. But before we do that, we're going to wrap them up in this nice little cloth that I found, so that way we don't mess up our water. Alright, now we're going to put in our little cloth bag in here. And before you're like, where's the other stuff? We will add that in a couple hours. We're not going to add it in right now because it's going to take all that flavor away. Alright, this has been simmering for like 3 hours since I did everything. So I'm going to remove the spice bag, the onion, and the meat. I'm also still on the hunt for some ginger and some cinnamon. So. Alright, our broth is gorgeous. There is a beautiful color to it, and of course, like you can see all the fat on the top. I'm gonna go ahead and add in some ingredients, and in a little while I'm really gonna have to run to the store and get the things that are missing. Alright, we're throwing in rock sugar, a clump of salt. You don't want to over salt this because the fish sauce itself is already really salty, and you can always add more salt, but you can't take salt away. And fish sauce, I'm using the squid. I heard the red boat one is pretty good, but we're just gonna... Alright, I think that's enough, and I'm gonna give it a couple minutes before I taste it. Alright, it's pretty good, but I can tell it's missing the cinnamon and the ginger. Anyway, I can also tell it's missing beef bouillon, but we will get to that in a minute. We're just going to let this simmer a little bit longer while I get that stuff ready. Alright, so I had some cinnamon powder. I would not recommend doing that. We're at a pinch, so had to do that. It actually added some warmth and a teeny bit of like touch of spice. Not really, but you get what I'm trying to say, hopefully. To the pho. I added a teeny bit more salt and a teeny bit more rock sugar. All we're really missing is beef bouillon, which I'm gonna have to go get. I also found a piece of ginger that I'm currently burning up over here, so that's great. Alright, now that our ginger is charred, we're just gonna go ahead and add that up there. Alright, we're at hour 12 pretty much. Whoops. And at this point, I'm just gonna go ahead and take the piece of ginger out, and I'm going to sample the broth again. Alright, now we're going to fill this up with some hot water so we can soak our rice noodles now that our broth is done. Alright, these are thoroughly soaked, so we are going to transfer them to a bowl, and we're going to go ahead and build up our little pho bowl. Alright, these are thoroughly soaked, so we are going to transfer them to a bowl, and we're going to go ahead and build up our little pho bowl. We're going to add in some of our beautiful broth. And we're also going to add in meat. Alright, we got our oxtail, we got a short rib, and now I'm going to slice up some eye round to put in here. Alright, we got our pieces of eye round, so now we got to finish assembling our bowl. Alright, cilantro. Teeny bit of onion. You can also add these, which I did to mine, but my boyfriend decided he didn't want them. And last but not least, hoisin sauce. And there you have it, a beautiful plate of pho.